Okay, today we're going to talk about Chapter 10, Survey Research. Since most of you are doing survey research or looking at survey research, then this should be a very interesting chapter for all of you. If I can make this thing work, there we go, okay. Mail questionnaires, and this is what I've been talking about with most of you, that mainly because that's what I did with my research. It was a mail questionnaire. They are an impersonal survey method. It can be useful, of course. The advantages to mail questionnaire include low cost, reduction in biasing error, greater anonymity, considered answers and consultations. They can take them home and do them as a group, or they're certainly aren't being overlooked by the researcher. And accessibility. All you need to do is mail them. But then again, one of the problems is that you have to figure out where people live. You need people's addresses. Disadvantages to the mail questionnaire include requires simple questions, no opportunity for probing, no control over who fills out the questionnaire, and low response rate. One of the biggest problems is if you send 3 questionnaires to one household, potentially the same person may fill out all 3 questionnaires. Strategies for increasing response rate, sponsorship. You get somebody to sponsor you, like, I don't know, get somebody to sponsor you like bashes. Appeal to the respondents, their goodwill, and you can offer them a reward. And what I did with mine, I offered them $10 if they filled out if they filled it out. The problem was, and of course, most people would have filled it out anyway, and most people didn't do it for the reward. It was just that I wanted to show them that it was real, that there's no reason to overlook this. I mean, for $10, uh, you know, format and typography, such as high quality paper and adequate spacing. This needs to be addressed. You don't want everything jammed together. People get frustrated, especially people with poorer eyesight. They'll get frustrated and they won't fill it out. Semi-personal cover letter, and that is one of the things that you need to do. You're not really addressing them, but you're addressing everybody that you want to take the survey. So you need to include a cover letter. Include a stamped self-addressed envelope. You shouldn't expect them to pay for the postage, and you need to do it when they have free time. So if you sent them out on a Wednesday so that they got them on a Friday, that might not be a bad idea. That way, make sure they're not they're spread out over the weekend, I guess. Total design method, standardized set of step-by-step procedures that is divided into 2 parts. The questionnaire construction and the survey implementation. Tailored design method includes more considerations of exchanges between surveyors and those being surveyed. Interactions between the two, reciprocity, I'll give you this, you give me that, and trust, of course. So if you're talking about something in your cover letter, one of the things you need to do is disclose as much information as you possibly can without prejudicing your survey, and that gives them information, and then that develops trust, and then potentially they'll give you good answers in return. The TDM implementation procedures focus primarily on follow-up. Follow-up strategy is to send a reminder postcard to respondents who have not replied 1 week after the first mailing. The second follow-up consists of another reminder letter and a replacement questionnaire with a return envelope sent at the end of the 3rd week. After 7 weeks, another letter with a replacement questionnaire is sent, preferably by certified mail, to all the individuals who have not responded. This is one of the ways of doing it. You really don't want to harass them. If they threw the first one away, they will probably throw the second one away, and there's no reason to send them a third, and all of this um, starts adding up. So it's going to be relatively expensive if you have to get results from these select individuals. Homogenous groups consist of people with similar backgrounds. Heterogeneous groups consist of individuals who differ from one another in some way. Groups and response rates, respondents who are more educated are more likely to fill out and return the questionnaires. Interest in or familiarity with the topic under investigation is another important factor in determining the rate of return. One of the things I had to do in my research, I had to define what resilience was. And I needed to tell them why I felt like this was a good topic to research. Professionals tend to have the highest response rate among all occupations. Many male surveys achieve a response rate no greater than 50%. Now, so you have to expect this. No, non-response is a serious problem because non-respondents differ considerably from respondents, and this is a problem. So you're trying to get a random sample. You're trying to get a random sample. Sorry, dogs. You're trying to get a random sample, but you can't get a random sample if you get all of these individuals that aren't responding. So, and this can be a problem. The people who fill out questionnaires are a certain type of people. The people that don't fill out questionnaires are a certain type of people. And of course, you want both of those types of people in your survey, but sometimes it just isn't going to happen. A personal interview is a face-to-face situation in which an interviewer asks respondents questions designed to elicit answers pertinent to the research hypotheses. The questions, their wording, and their sequence define the structure of the interview. With my own research, I think I sent out 175 questionnaires and I got back 115, 110, 115, which is not bad, but that's still a bunch of questionnaires that nobody filled out. The least flexible personal interview form is the schedule structured interview. In a schedule structured interview, the number of questions and the wording of the questions are identical for all the respondents. Thus, interviewers should not reword questions or provide explanations of the questions if the respondent asks for clarification. The researcher attempts to reduce the risk that changes in the way questions are worded, for example, might elicit differences in responses. So there you go. The schedule structured interview is based on three crucial assumptions. Number one, for any research objective, the respondents have a sufficiently common vocabulary so that it is possible to formulate questions which have the same meaning for each of them. That is number two, that is possible to phrase all questions in a form that is equally meaningful to each respondent. And number three, that if the meaning of each question is to be identical for each respondent, its context must be identical, and since all preceding questions constitute part of the contexts, the sequence of questions must be identical, and you need to be really careful of that. Computer-assisted personal interviewing, or CAPI, technology is used to implement schedule structured interviews. One of the problems with textbooks is that they're always out of date. In other words, things are happening and the new technologies come up, and of course you can't get them in a textbook because you only revise a textbook every 2 or 3 years. So a lot of times they miss things or they're old ideas. Well, of course, computer-assisted personal interviewing is possible. It's very possible now with Skype and Zoom and Duo. Interviewers use a laptop or a small handheld device to conduct the interview using prompts and questions on the screen in front of them. You can do this on TikTok. You can do this with a lot of different platforms. In computer-assisted self-interviewing, the interviewer provides the respondent with a laptop or small handheld device, and then the computer guides the respondent through the interview questions. Good for sensitive topics such as sexual partnerships. This is something people don't like to talk about. I got yelled at today from by my wife for referring to something that she thought I was referring to something sexual. It's kind of sad. We used to banter like that all the time, and now that we're getting old, I guess she is offended more easily. The non-scheduled, structured, or focused interview takes place with respondents known to have been involved in a particular experience. It refers to situations that have been analyzed prior to the interview. It proceeds on the basis of an interview guide, specifying topics related to the research hypotheses. It is focused on the subject's experiences regarding the situations under study. The non-structured or non-directive interview is the most flexible form of personal interviewing. The researcher does not employ a schedule to ask a pre-specified set of questions, nor are the questions asked in a specified order. Respondents are encouraged to relate their experiences, to describe whatever events seem significant to them, to provide their own definitions of their situations, and to reveal their opinions and attitudes as they see fit. The interviewer has a great deal of freedom to probe various areas and to raise specific queries during the interview. Advantages of the personal interview include flexibility, control of the interview situation, high response rate, collection of supplementary information. The disadvantages of personal interview include higher cost, interview bias, and lack of anonymity. Principles and procedures of interviewing. The first step in interviewing process is getting the respondent to cooperate and to provide the desired information. 3 factors that help. The respondents must feel that their interaction with the interviewer will be pleasant and satisfying. The respondents need to see the study as being worthwhile, and barriers to the interview in the respondents' minds must be overcome. Researcher introduction to respondents. Tell the respondent who you are and whom you represent. Tell the respondent what you're doing in a way that will stimulate his or her interest. Tell the respondent how he or she was chosen. Adapt your approach to the situation. Try to create a relationship of confidence and understanding. This, of course, is rapport between yourself and the respondent. Specific techniques interviewer can use. The questionnaire should be followed but can be used informally. Interviews should be conducted in an informal atmosphere. Questions should be asked exactly as written. Read each question slowly. Questions should be presented in the same order as in the questionnaire. Ask every question specified in the questionnaire. Questions that are misinterpreted or misunderstood should be repeated and clarified. Probing is a technique used to stimulate discussion and obtain more information. 2 major functions of probing: motivate the respondent to elaborate or clarify an answer or to explain the reasons behind the answer. Help focus the conversation on the specific topic of the interview. The less structured the interview, the more important probing becomes. Telephone interview is characterized as a semi-personal method of collecting information. Investigators can reach 95% of the population. This figure is changing with the shift from landlines to cellular phones. And of course, hardly anybody has landlines anymore. We have one, but we also have cell phones. Random sampling is also possible due to the process of random digit dialing. A researcher first identifies all working telephone exchanges in the targeted geographic area. Then they create a potential telephone number by randomly selecting an exchange and then appending a random number between 0001 and 9999. Software programs are available to dial the number for the interviewer and delete from future selections any numbers for which an interview has been completed or those that are non-residential or non-working. Conducted using computer-assisted telephone interviewing. The interviewer sits at a computer terminal, and as a question flashes on the screen, they ask it over the telephone. The interviewer types and codes each of the respondent's answers. CATI technology can also be combined with voice recognition software, whereby the computer asks the questions and records and codes the verbal responses to the questions. The advantages: moderate costs, speed, high response rates, high quality data collection. The disadvantages: reluctance to discuss sensitive topics, the broken off interview, participants hanging up, and less information that you get. Online surveys make it easy for researchers to design and implement surveys. Programs like SurveyMonkey and Zoho Polls provide users with ready-made survey templates that are simple and allow simultaneous distribution. Survey responses are fed directly into a database, saving time and resources spent coding and entering survey responses by hand. Online survey limitation: not evenly distributed across populations. Worldwide access to computers and internet varies markedly. In the United States, about 1/4 of the population does not have access to a computer. On the reservation, I would imagine it's a little higher than that. Fewer still have regular access to the internet, and of course, there are a lot of dead spots on the reservation, which has made it very difficult for Dene College to maintain online learning. Among whites, nearly 85% have access to the internet, but for blacks and Hispanics, this figure is well below 60%. Live feeds allows for measurements at multiple time points with the potential to be obtained continuously. Live feeds are important because multiple measurements allow us to understand how social phenomena change over time. Big data refers to data and data sets that are too large in terms of their size and/or complexity to be managed and analyzed by hand or conventional computer programs, and so require more advanced computing procedures for data storage, manipulation, and analysis. Live feeds and big data challenges: more data do not entail more accessible data. Data collected by Twitter, Facebook, Google, etc. are inaccessible due to a variety of factors, including the human, social, political, financial capital that is sometimes involved in securing such data. Moreover, these data often contain or are linked to highly sensitive personal information, including social security and bank account numbers, places of residence and/or geographic location, and so on. Advantages of online surveys: live feeds and big data, low costs, speed, moderate response time. The disadvantages of online surveys, live feeds, and big data: limited sampling frame, privacy, and accessibility. And that is the end of the chapter. Really short one. I'm not exactly sure why. That's all we're tackling this week. You have no information that you need to give me this week as far as your proposal is concerned. I don't even think that there's a test that I need to type up. I'll check that out later. But have a happy 4th of July, everybody.